Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive brought to you by Vintage Car Chronicles on Spotify.
You know we love to give you guys these bonus deep dives, right?
Yeah, and this one is for all you JDM fans out there.
Buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the legendary Nissan Skyline R34.
One of the most iconic Japanese performance cars of all time, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to cover everything, from its design to the crazy performance, the pop culture impact.
Oh, and we can't forget the legal battles it faced here in the U.S.
Oh yeah, getting your hands on one of these has been a real challenge for American enthusiasts.
But now that the first R34s are finally eligible for import, things are about to get very interesting.
Oh yeah, the 25-year rule finally lifting is going to be a game changer.
We have a ton of awesome sources to dig into.
We're talking books, articles, documentaries.
Even some interviews with the people who designed and built this beast.
And we've got some juicy myth-busting lined up, too.
Oh, yeah. Get ready to have some of your preconceptions challenged.
Like, did you know that the advertised horsepower for the R34 wasn't even close to the real deal?
We'll get into all that and more, but first, let's set the stage.
Yeah, let's go back to where it all began.
Before we get to the R34, we need to understand the Skyline's history.
It's a pretty long and fascinating one, actually.
This wasn't always the hardcore sports car icon we know and love.
It started out as a, what was it, like a performance sedan?
Right. It gradually evolved over the years, becoming more and more focused on performance with each generation.
So by the time the R34 hit the scene in 1999...
the anticipation was through the roof. Enthusiasts knew Nissan was about to unleash something special.
And they did not disappoint.
No, they did not.
But here's something that might surprise you.
Okay, I'm all ears.
The chief engineer, Kazutoshi Mizuno, his original vision for the R34 was actually quite different.
Oh, really?
How so?
He initially wanted to use a V6 engine.
Interesting, instead of the iconic RB26.
And get this, he even imagined a front mid-engine layout. Wow, that would have been a radical departure from previous Skylines.
Can you imagine what that would have been like?
Oh, man, a completely different beast.
It's mind-blowing to think how close they came to going down a totally different path.
A real sliding doors moment in automotive history.
Right. But hey, everything happens for a reason.
Budget constraints kind of forced their hand, you know?
Yeah. They had to stick with the RB26 DETT, the twin-turbo inline-six that was already a legend.
And in a way, it's kind of poetic, isn't it?
Yeah. The engine that helped make the R34 so legendary almost didn't even happen.
Talk about a twist of fate.
Okay, so speaking of the RB26 DET,
The heart of the beast.
let's dive into the specifics of this incredible engine.
All right, let's get technical.
This 2.6-liter twin-turbocharged monster, there was a lot of mystery surrounding its actual power output, right?
Ah, yes. We have to remember the gentleman's agreement among Japanese automakers back then.
You mean that whole horsepower cap thing?
Exactly. They all agreed to publicly list their cars as having no more than 276 horsepower.
It was like this unspoken rule. But everyone knew these cars were packing way more punch than that.
Oh, yeah, wink, wink.
The R34 was a prime example of that.
Officially rated at 276 HP, but dyno tests consistently showed it was making well over 300 horsepower.
Sometimes even close to 330. So Nissan was basically playing this clever game, right?
Right, staying within the agreed-upon limits, but still delivering the goods.
It's a classic case of under-promising and over-delivering.
And the enthusiasts loved them for it. But beyond the raw horsepower, there's so much more to appreciate about the RB26 DETT.
Oh, absolutely. Like its engineering, the attention to detail. Like the air-to-air intercooler, for example.
Oh, yeah, that was a key component.
I've always wondered, why was that intercooler so special?
Well, think of it this way. You're forcing more air into the engine with a turbocharger, right?
Yeah, more air, more power.
But that air heats up, and hot air is less dense, meaning it has less oxygen, and oxygen is what you need for combustion.
So the intercooler is like a cool-down zone for the air before it goes into the engine.
Exactly. It cools that compressed air down, making it denser and allowing more oxygen into the cylinders.
Resulting in a bigger bang and more power.
Right. And it also helps to prevent detonation, which can be pretty damaging to the engine.
So it's all about finding that balance between max power and reliability.
And the R34 engineers nailed it. But the attention to detail wasn't just limited to the engine.
The R34 had some seriously advanced tech for its time.
Like the ATTESA E-TS all-wheel drive system.
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting.
Oh, yeah. The ATTESA system was a game changer.
I know a little bit about all-wheel drive, but how did this one work?
So imagine you're driving a regular all-wheel drive car.
Right.
The power split between the front and rear wheels is usually fixed, right?
You got it.
But with ATTESA E-TS, the car constantly monitors what you're doing,
Like how I'm driving.
your speed, throttle input, steering angle,
Okay.
and it adjusts how much power goes to each wheel in real time.
Whoa, so it's like it's adapting to the road conditions and my driving style.
Precisely. Optimizing grip and handling on the fly, it's like having this super smart co-driver who can predict your moves and adjust the car's behavior accordingly.
No wonder the R34 was known for its incredible handling.
It just stuck to the road like glue no matter what you threw at it.
Amazing.
And we can't forget another piece of tech that was revolutionary for its time. The multifunction display, or MFD.
Oh yeah, the MFD. I mean, this was 1999.
Way ahead of its time. Most cars didn't offer anything like this.
Yeah, they didn't.
Imagine this. You're in the driver's seat, and you've got this display right there on the dashboard.
Giving you real-time performance data.
Boost pressure, oil pressure, water temperature, you name it. It even had lap timers.
It was like having your own personal pit crew right there in the car with you.
And you know, back then, that kind of information was usually reserved for race cars, not street cars.
True. Did that data actually help drivers improve their performance?
Oh, absolutely. It gave them a level of feedback and control that was unheard of at the time. They could see exactly how the car was responding and make adjustments to push their limits.
So it wasn't just about having cool gadgets. It was a tool for performance.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the engine and the tech, but the R34 wasn't just a performance machine.
Oh, no. Not at
It
all.
became this pop culture phenomenon, this icon.
Yeah, you can't talk about the R34 without mentioning its role in pop culture, especially its appearance in the Fast and Furious franchise.
Oh yeah, that Bayside Blue R34 driven by Brian O'Connor in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Absolutely iconic. It pretty much cemented the car's legendary status for a whole new generation.
That movie came out when the import scene was exploding in popularity.
Right, and suddenly everyone wanted a piece of JDM performance.
And the R34 was at the top of everyone's list.
Oh, for sure.
It had this aura, even if you weren't a hardcore car person, you knew this car was something special.
It just oozed cool.
And then there's its racing pedigree.
Mhm.
We can't forget that the R34 dominated on the track.
Absolutely, especially in the Japanese Super GT series.
It went head-to-head with some of the fiercest competitors in the world, like the Supra, the Evo, the WRX STI.
And it often came out on top.
It was like the golden age of Japanese performance cars, and the R34 was leading the charge.
No question about it.
But, here in the U.S., the R34 has always been this forbidden fruit, thanks to that 25-year import rule.
The infamous import rule.
Cars not originally sold in the U.S. have to be at least 25 years old to be legally imported.
It's been a long wait for American enthusiasts.
Yeah, we've had to admire the R34 from afar for years.
But the good news is the first models became eligible for import this year in 2024.
It's crazy to think we can finally see those early R34s hit in the streets.
It's going to be an exciting time for JDM fans in the States, that's for sure.
And speaking of the R34 and its journey to the U.S., we have to talk about the crazy story of the actual GT-R used in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Oh man, that car had a wild ride.
It got seized and impounded after filming.
They actually had to import that car as a kit car just to get it into the U.S. for filming.
And because it wasn't street legal, it got caught up in this whole legal battle with the government.
Can you believe that one of the most famous movie cars of all time locked away in a warehouse?
It's wild. But eventually, after a long, drawn-out legal process, it was finally released.
And where did it end up?
In a museum in Germany.
Oh, see.
I know, right? For over a decade.
That's almost fitting, considering how iconic that car became.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the legend. But okay, let's talk about the R34 as a collector's item.
Because this thing is a true collector's dream.
Limited production numbers, its cult status, its driven prices through the roof.
Absolutely. Clean, unmodified examples are becoming increasingly rare and valuable.
And then you have the special editions like the V-Spec, the Nismo models. Those are in a league of their own.
Oh yeah, serious collector's items.
And then, of course, there's the ultimate prize, Paul Walker's R34 from Fast and Furious 4.
The one and only.
That car sold at auction in 2023 for a record-breaking $1.357 million.
That's more than some Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
I know, right? It's mind-blowing. It just goes to show you the power of pop culture combined with genuine automotive excellence.
It's like owning a piece of both movie history and automotive history, all in one car.
The holy grail for any R34 enthusiast.
For sure. But remember, the R34 wasn't just about the top-of-the-line GT-R.
Oh yeah, Nissan offered a whole range of Skylines back then.
catering to different tastes and budgets.
Let's dig into that a little bit. What else was on the menu back in '99?
Well, you had the base model, the GT, which came with a 2.0-liter RB2DE Neo engine, a little less powerful, but still sporty and fun to drive.
It was a more affordable entry point into the Skyline family, right?
Exactly. But for those who wanted a bit more oomph without going full-blown GTR, there were other options too.
Oh, like what?
You had the 25 GT and 25 GT Turbo, both powered by 2.5-liter engines, the RB25DE and RB25DT, respectively.
A bit more muscle under the hood, but still practical for everyday driving. I like it.
They offered a great balance of performance and usability. And here's an interesting twist. Not all Skylines were rear-wheel drive, like the GT-R.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Nissan also offered some models with their ATTESA E-TS Pro all-wheel drive system.
So you could have that legendary grip and handling, even if you weren't driving the top dog GT-R. That's awesome.
Yep, they spread the performance love across the lineup.
But let's be real, the GT-R was the halo car, the one that everyone dreamed of.
No doubt about it. The one that captured the hearts of enthusiasts worldwide.
And it came in a dizzying array of variations and special editions, too.
It can get a little confusing, I know. There's the V-Spec, the M-Spec, the NER.
A lot to unpack there.
Each one had its own unique set of upgrades and modifications.
So let's break it down. What was the deal with the V-Spec?
The V-Spec, which stands for Victory Specification, was all about track-focused performance.
So if you were serious about taking your R34 to the circuit, the V-Spec was the way to go.
Exactly. It came with upgraded suspension, brakes, aerodynamics, plus a more aggressive tune for that ATTESA E-TS Pro system.
A true track weapon. And what about the M-Spec?
The M-Spec was actually geared more towards comfort and refinement.
Oh, interesting.
Softer suspension, leather seats with heaters, all those nice creature comforts.
So a bit more of a grand tourer approach. Still with that GTR DNA underneath, though.
Exactly. And then you have the NER.
NER. That sounds familiar, but I can't quite place it.
It was named after the legendary Nürburgring racetrack in Germany.
Where they did a lot of the testing and development for the R34.
That's right. So it's kind of a fitting tribute.
So what made the NER special? How was it different from the other GTR models?
Well, for one, it came with the N1 engine, a highly tuned version of the RB26D ETT.
Oh, wow. So they took an already amazing engine and made it even better.
That's right. The N1 was basically a blueprinted engine, meaning its components were carefully selected and balanced for optimal performance.
Well, this was for the hardcore enthusiasts.
Absolutely. The NER was a limited edition model, and they're highly sought after by collectors today.
I bet. It's like the holy grail of R34s. But let's not forget about the other special editions, like the S-Tune, the R-Tune, and the super rare Z-Tune.
So many to choose from. Nissan really went all out.
They did. They offered something for every taste and driving style. It's amazing how much variety they squeezed out of the R34 platform.
It speaks volumes about the passion and creativity of the team behind this car. They weren't just building cars, they were creating a whole world of performance and style.
It's true. And speaking of style, the R34 wasn't just a performance icon. It had a huge impact on the tuning scene.
Oh, absolutely. The R34 is practically synonymous with tuning.
It's like the ultimate tuner car. But why? Why was it so popular with modifiers?
Well, a big part of it was that RB26 DTT engine we were talking about. It's incredibly robust and responsive to tuning.
They're not just a little boost in power, right? We're talking serious gains.
Oh, yeah. Serious gains. With the right modifications, you could easily squeeze 500, 600, even 700 horsepower out of that engine.
That's just insane. But it wasn't just about the engine, was it? The chassis and suspension played a role too, right?
Absolutely. The R34's chassis and suspension were designed for performance, making it perfect for handling upgrades. The rigid chassis, the balanced weight distribution, the sophisticated suspension components, it was all there.
So tuners could really dial in the handling and turn the R34 into a true track monster.
Precisely. And the aftermarket support for the R34 was, and still is, incredible. You can find anything you need to modify this car, from basic bolt-ons to full-blown engine swaps and wide-body kits. You name it, it exists.
It's like a whole industry sprang up around modifying these cars.
For sure. And you know what I love about it? You can literally build your dream R34 from the ground up. If you have the time, the money, and the know-how, the possibilities are endless.
That's amazing. It's like taking a legend and making it your own, putting your own personal stamp on it. But all that tuning potential comes with a responsibility, right? You have to be smart about it.
Absolutely. You can't just throw a bunch of parts at it and expect it to handle like a dream.
You need to approach tuning with respect for the car and for your own safety.
Right, 100%. A good tuner will help you choose the right parts for your goals and make sure everything is installed and tuned properly.
It's an investment worth making. So a word of advice to anyone thinking of modifying their R34,
Hmm.
do your research, find a reputable tuner, and don't cut corners.
Solid advice.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the R34's cultural impact beyond just the tuning scene.
Oh, yeah, it goes way beyond
We
that.
talked about Fast and Furious, but its influence runs much deeper.
It really does. It's become the symbol of Japanese car culture.
You see it everywhere, video games, anime, even fashion.
The R34 has definitely transcended the automotive world.
It has this aura of cool, a rebellious spirit that just resonates with people.
And it's not just about performance, although that obviously plays a huge role, right?
Yeah.
It's also the design, the sound, the whole attitude.
The R34 just exudes this raw energy.
It has a presence, a character that's hard to define but instantly recognizable.
I think that's what makes it so iconic. It's more than just a car. It's a statement.
A statement about individuality, about passion, about pushing the limits.
And those themes are universal. That's why it continues to inspire people today.
Absolutely. It represents a moment in time, a cultural shift that's still being felt.
It's a reminder that cars can be so much more than just machines. They can be works of art.
Cultural touchstones, even extensions of our own personalities.
Well said.
Right.
But let's be real for a minute. As much as we might romanticize the R34, owning one comes with its own set of challenges.
Oh, yeah, especially now that they're starting to become legal in the US. These cars are over 25 years old, and that means
Things are going to need fixing.
parts availability, maintenance costs. These are real concerns for any potential R34 owner.
Yeah, it's not like owning a Toyota Camry. You can't just take it to any shop on the corner. These cars require specialized knowledge and expertise.
And that expertise can be expensive.
You're not just paying for labor, you're paying for years of experience
Yeah.
working on these complex machines.
And finding parts can be tough, especially for things like the ATTESA E-TS Pro system or the RB26 DTT engine.
You got to be dedicated to keep one of these on the road. So owning an R34 is definitely a commitment, financially and emotionally.
It's more than just a car, it's a passion project.
It's like owning a piece of history, you know?
And that history requires care and attention.
But for those willing to put in the time and effort, it can be an incredibly rewarding experience, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. These cars are special. They have a soul, a character that's hard to find in modern cars.
It's about the sound, the feel, the connection to this legacy of performance and innovation.
The thrill of the drive, the sense of community among enthusiasts, the pride of owning something truly special.
Well said. And as we delve deeper into the R34, I think it's important to consider its lasting impact.
Its legacy. What will its influence be on the automotive world now that it's finally legal in the U.S.?
What do you think? Will it become this mainstream icon, or will it hold on to that cult status?
It's hard to say for sure, but I have a feeling the R34 has the power to inspire a whole new wave of enthusiasts.
Yeah.
It represents a time when cars were raw, mechanical, and full of character, something that's becoming increasingly rare these days.
A powerful reminder that driving can be more than just getting from point A to point B.
It's about passion, excitement, pushing boundaries. That message feels more relevant than ever today.
Do you think the R34 could spark a resurgence of interest in classic JDM performance cars?
I wouldn't be surprised. It has this ability to make people appreciate the beauty of a well-engineered machine, even without all the latest technology.
Maybe it'll even inspire automakers to inject a little bit more soul and personality into their modern cars.
We can only hope. But even if it doesn't revolutionize the entire industry, the R34's legacy is secure.
This is a car that's going to be remembered as one of the greatest JDM icons of all time.
No question. A legend that continues to inspire and redefine what automotive excellence can be. It's a legacy worth celebrating. They really did spread the love around. But at the end of the day, the GT-R was the halo car, the one that really grabbed everyone's attention.
Yeah, the one that dreams are made of.
For sure. And speaking of the GT-R, I know a lot of people get confused by all the different variations and special editions they released.
Oh yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
You got your V-Spec, your M-Spec, the NER.
Yeah, help us out here. What was the deal with the V-Spec?
So the V-Spec, which stands for Victory Specification, was all about track-focused performance.
So basically, if you wanted to take your R34 to the track and really push it to the limits, the V-Spec was the one to get.
You got it. Upgraded suspension, brakes, aerodynamics.
And they tweaked the ATTESA E-TS Pro system for even more aggressive performance, right?
Exactly. They really made it a proper track weapon.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about the M-Spec? Wasn't that one more geared towards comfort?
You're right. The M-Spec was all about refinement. Softer suspension, leather seats with heaters, all those creature comforts.
So it was more of a grand tourer than a hardcore track car. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you could say it was a bit more civilized, but still with that GT-R DNA underneath.
I like that. So you could have the best of both worlds.
Exactly. And then there's the NER.
The NER. I feel like I've heard that name before, but I can't quite remember what it refers to.
Well, does the Nürburgring ring a bell?
The Nürburgring.
Oh,
Right, the famous racetrack in Germany.
that's the one. And they named the special edition after it because the R34 went through extensive testing and development there.
Oh, I see. That's a cool tribute. So what made the NER stand out from the other GTR models?
Well, the big thing was the N1 engine. It was a highly tuned version of the RB26D ETT.
So they took an already incredible engine and made it even more powerful?
Yeah, you could say that. The N1 was a blueprinted engine, which meant they carefully selected and balanced all the components for optimal performance.
Wow, that's impressive. This was really for the diehard enthusiast, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The NER was a limited edition model, and they're incredibly rare and valuable these days.
Yeah, I can only imagine. A true collector's item. But, okay, we can't forget about all the other special editions they released either. The S-Tune, the R-Tune, and the ultra-rare Z-Tune.
Right. They really went all out with the special editions. They were catering to all sorts of different tastes and driving styles.
It's amazing how much variety they managed to pack into the R34 platform.
It really is. It shows just how passionate and creative the team behind the R34 was.
They weren't just building cars, they were creating a whole culture around them.
Exactly. And speaking of culture, we've got to talk about the R34's impact on the tuning scene.
Oh yeah, this car is practically synonymous with tuning.
It's like the ultimate tuner car. And there are a few reasons for that.
Okay, like what?
Well, for one thing, that RB26D ETT engine is a tuner's dream.
It's super responsive to modifications, right?
Oh yeah, it's got tons of potential. You can squeeze some crazy power out of that engine with the right tuning.
We're not talking about just a little boost in horsepower here, are we?
No, we're talking serious gains. Like 500, 600, even 700 horsepower.
That's wild. It's almost hard to imagine that much power coming from a 2.6-liter engine.
It is pretty incredible. But the engine wasn't the only thing that made the R34 such a popular platform for tuning.
What else was there?
Well, the chassis and suspension were designed with performance in mind, too. They were practically begging to be upgraded.
So tuners could really dial in the handling and make the R34 even more of a beast on the track.
Exactly. And the aftermarket support for the R34 was, and still is, amazing. You can find any part you could possibly want for this car.
Anything from basic bolt-on upgrades to full-blown engine swaps and wide-body kits.
You name it, it exists. You could literally build your dream R34 from scratch if you had the time, money, and expertise.
That's the beauty of the R34. It's like a blank canvas for enthusiasts. Yeah. But with all that tuning potential comes a word of caution, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. You got to be smart about it. You can't just slap on a bunch of random parts and expect it to work perfectly.
You need to have a plan, do your research, and find a tuner who knows what they're doing.
A good tuner will not only help you choose the right parts, but they'll make sure everything is installed and tuned properly.
It's about finding the right balance between performance and reliability. And safety, of course.
Safety first, always. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the R34's impact beyond the world of tuning.
Yeah, because its cultural influence goes far beyond just car enthusiasts.
It really does. We talked about its role in the Fast and Furious franchise, but it's become so much more than just a movie car.
It's become this symbol of Japanese car culture, this icon that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
Video games, anime, fashion.
The R34 has definitely transcended the automotive world and become a pop culture phenomenon in its own right.
It's got this undeniable aura of cool, this rebellious spirit that resonates with people from all walks of life.
And it's not just about the performance, although that obviously plays a big part. It's the design, the sound, the whole attitude of the car.
It just exudes this raw energy, this sense of power and purpose.
It has a presence, a character that's hard to put into words, but you know it when you see it.
It's more than just a car, it's a statement.
A statement about individuality, about passion, about pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And those are themes that appeal to people all over the world. That's why the R34 continues to inspire and captivate people even decades after it was first released.
It represents a certain moment in time, a shift in car culture that we're still feeling the effects of today.
It's a reminder that cars can be so much more than just machines. They can be works of art, cultural touchstones, even extensions of our own personalities.
Well said. But let's get back down to earth for a second. As much as we might romanticize the R34, owning one comes with its own set of challenges.
Especially now that they're finally becoming legal in the US.
Right. These cars are over 25 years old now, which means parts availability and maintenance costs can be a real headache.
It's not like your average new car where you can just take it to any mechanic.
Exactly. These cars require specialized knowledge and expertise, which can be expensive.
You're not just paying for labor. You're paying for years of experience working on these unique and complex machines.
And parts can be hard to come by, especially for things like the ATTESA E-TS Pro system or the RB26 ETT engine.
Yeah, finding parts for a 25-year-old Japanese performance car is not exactly a walk in the park.
So owning an R34 is definitely a commitment, both financially and emotionally.
It's a passion project, not just a mode of transportation.
But for those who are willing to put in the time and effort, it can be an incredibly rewarding experience.
There's just something special about these cars. They have a soul, a character that you don't find in modern cars.
It's about the sound of that engine roaring to life, the feel of the steering wheel in your hands, the connection to a legacy of performance and innovation.
It's about the thrill of the drive, the sense of community you feel with other enthusiasts, the pride of owning something truly unique and special.
It's all of that and more. But as we continue our deep dive into the R34, I think it's important to think about its lasting impact on car culture.
Yeah. What will its legacy be, especially now that it's finally legal in the US?
Will it become more mainstream, or will it maintain that cult status it's always had?
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. The R34 is a car that will continue to fascinate and inspire people for years to come.
It represents a time when cars were raw and mechanical and full of personality, something that's sadly lacking in a lot of modern cars.
Maybe the R34 can help bring back some of that passion and excitement. Maybe it can inspire automakers to inject a little bit more soul into their designs.
We can hope. But even if it doesn't change the entire industry, the R34's legacy is secure. It will always be remembered as one of the greatest JDM icons of all time.
A true legend that continues to push the boundaries of what's possible in the automotive world, and that's something worth celebrating.
It's a good question. It's going to be fascinating to see how the R34's story unfolds here in the US now that it's legal.
Right. Like, will it become a more mainstream thing, or will it kind of keep that cult status?
I think it has the potential to reach a wider audience now. But at the same time, it's always going to be a special car. One that's cherished by those who really get it, you know?
It's not just a car, it's like a symbol of something.
Exactly. It represents a certain era of Japanese performance cars, a time when things were a bit more raw, a bit more analog.
Yeah, it's got that raw mechanical feel that a lot of modern cars are missing.
And I think that's what's going to draw people to it.
That connection to a different time in automotive history.
It's like a time capsule of pure driving passion.
I like that. A time capsule. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the Nissan Skyline R34, any final thoughts?
You know, we've covered a lot of ground here, from its humble beginnings to its global icon status.
We've talked about the engine, the technology, the tuning scene, the pop culture impact.
So the legal battles, the challenges of ownership.
It's been a wild ride. And you know what? It's been a blast sharing our love for this car with you all.
I hope we've maybe inspired some of you to learn more about the R34, or even to chase your own automotive dreams, whatever they may be.
And if you're looking for more deep dives into the world of classic cars, remember to check out Vintage Car Chronicles, our main show.
You can find it on Spotify,
We've got a new episode for you every single day.
so you can get your daily dose of automotive history and passion.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Until next time, keep the rubber side down.